I never know exactly what to say when we come back on the air. Other than
Well, when we start on the air the first time,
it's always the roughest. I don't know what to say other than say, "Welcome to the show." You're listening to Prepper Talk Radio here on K Talk AM 1640.
that's all you got to do.
I know. It just gets a little boring.
You're making it too difficult.
I know. I overthink things too much.
It's not like the apocalypse is all of a sudden upon you.
But it is.
It isn't.
But it is.
But it isn't.
Okay, you convinced me.
It's the end of the credits as we know it. That's all it is. Now it's back to the show.
Anxiety builds, and I don't know what to say. But hey, welcome to the show. It's another Friday.
It is.
We're happy to be here. I personally, I'm going to speak for myself. I love doing the show.
It is awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
It is fun.
And we have an announcement.
Yes, we do.
We are going to be moving the show to 2 p.m. on Fridays.
Yep. 2 to 3 on Fridays, starting next month.
And then at the beginning of the year, we're going to go 2 to 4.
It'll get serious. It'll be
really going to get serious.
Twice the show.
As much.
I feel like I need a really cool announcer voice. Twice the show.
Maybe you should record our next little promo there.
Yeah,
have Krista
maybe
put it on there for. Well, thanks for listening here. You're listening to Scott and Shane, or Shane and Scott. And today, we are a mess. At least I'm a mess.
I don't know why you think you're a mess. Mr. Hyper Organized, if he moves his one page to the left, you'll see how organized this guy is.
I have a huge list of things I want to get through, and I know it's not going to happen.
And that's every week, though. How is this any different?
No, that's true.
How is this any different? I think that's one of the things that most ready-minded individuals, people trying to be better prepared, they can list off things so much that they'll freeze a little bit and not be able to prioritize and figure out where to start. I, on the other hand, will do my quick list, and then I can prioritize really well while my wife is adding things to the list.
So you make a quick list so it's not overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And I take make these steps, and then once you can check that checkbox, you feel better. Oh, look, I'm making progress.
See, I don't worry about the checkbox, but my wife is a checkbox queen.
So do you cross it off, or do you check the box?
She actually crosses things off, unless it's a reusable list that she's got to keep for a long time, then she'll check the box. And if it's something that has an expiration date, she writes the expiration date on that paper. So she's very thorough. I, on the other hand,
not that thorough.
I've got a list. I check it. I make sure everything I've got is congruent with the list, put it where I need it, know where it is, and then I go from there. Well, as we've grown with our preparedness, we now have 42 bins of things. And, for example, we have a baby.
They're all labeled.
And she's adorable, and she's fun, except for when she's crying because she's teething, because nothing I can do helps her. Yeah. But in one of the boxes, box number 10, which is what I found out now, has all the baby supply stuff. So everything for teething, everything for, pain relief, it's all right there.
In that bin.
I had to go to her master list to find that. She's so hyper organized. It's fantastic to have it. But you can see that there's that play that's not my way, that's her way. And so I've had to adapt to that. And I think today's show really leans well into adapting to how are you going to survive. Today's show is about shelters. We're of the mind of sheltering in place first. We're also of the mind of bugging out when it's a strategic relocation, meaning you know where you're going, you've got shelter there, you've got supplies, you've got reinforcements. Otherwise, if you're just bugging out to bug out and you think, oh, I'm going to go to, I don't know, let's just say Heber, which is up in the mountains a little bit.
There's a campground I know up there.
Well, how many other people are going there, and guess whose property you're going to be trespassing on to get through, and now you've become a hostile individual.
We've talked about this a lot of times. We and I always say this is the quintessential element of being a prepper. What are you going to do? Are you going to bug in? Are you going to bug out? And so what we want to talk about today is kind of the first topic that I was, I'm going to say, inspired to talk about was bunkers in particular. Talk about bunkers, and then get on to the other types of shelters, other possibilities out there.
I mean, there's
put some ideas in your
there's
mind.
There's tents, there's lean-tos. You can build a bush cabin. I mean, you can build a real cabin. There's so many things. Geodesic domes. You could do the trailer. I mean, there's so many, and we'll talk a little bit about a lot of those.
Yeah, and I bet you can probably guess why I'm thinking bunkers, right? With the threat of potential nuclear war, North Korea. Personally, I don't put that at a very high possibility myself. At least not maybe confined to a small area, but not a worldwide, event or anything like that. So bunkers are on my mind, and they always have been. However, I don't. Let me back up a touch.
Okay.
We hear a lot of news stories in the prepping world, in the alternative media, where the rich, or the wealthy, and the famous are buying bunkers or building bunkers, in New Zealand, in the Midwest, all over,
the big push in the last probably year, leading up to the election and right after the election, a lot of the bunker companies and silo companies have been back ordered and backlogged because they've got these multi-million-dollar orders that are coming in from very wealthy individuals. A lot of the Silicon Valley elite, a lot of Hollywood elite are flocking to New Zealand, which I don't understand why New Zealand. Maybe it's because of the price of the land and you're locked in because there's no one else around because you've got an ocean. I don't know.
It's more remote, but the problem with New Zealand is it's under the crown, right? It's owned by the Queen of England.
Right. So even more so is the tectonic plates there are very volatile. So it's like, okay, let's put a bunker underground in a place where there's going to be earthquakes and volcanoes. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I don't know how they became rich enough to be that stupid. But that's one option you have always. As a prepper, you can always do the bunker, right? There's Atlas bunkers. There's
what's the local company?
Safe Shelter, which is local guys. There's also
do DIY, do it yourself.
DIY, yeah.
And there's a number of them out there, and they've even been on Discovery Channel and so forth, and we've seen those. And I think that's maybe made a little more popular, to hey, let's get a bunker, a steel bunker. But we can talk a little bit more about those kind of details. But let's talk about why do you think they're going to bunkers first? Maybe they aren't going to a bunker first, but that's kind of the impressions. Okay, there's trouble. Let's build a bunker. Let's dig in. Why do you think that is?
Hollywood.
Okay,
I think that all spawns from Hollywood. I mean, historically, why do you bury yourself when you're dead? That's historically when people get buried. It's because they want them dead or they are dead, right? So all of a sudden, we think bunkers. And I don't think it's been all of a sudden. I think it's been leading up to for a while because of Hollywood. I mean, it's great to have a reinforced, building and have all these great features. But then, you have to look at the radon particulates or not radon.
I've been doing radon here in Utah. Yeah, absolutely.
Radium and uranium and all the other. Radon has a 3.8 day half-life, so it's gone within a few days.
But it can still pollute your living space, whether it's a shelter or your home.
Correct, and it can cause lung cancer. Prolonged exposure.
Especially in a confined area like a bunker with not so great of air circulation in there, right?
And what's happening is that's leaching in through the ground coming up, right? Whereas a nuke, it's not going to be the same. It's going to be top down. Well, if you've got 18 inches of concrete between you and something else, or an
earth or whatever,
inch and a half plate steel, you don't even need to be buried if you're inch and a half plate steel, right? But it's beneficial to have a foot or two of dirt between you and that, just insulation.
Well, I think the idea of a bunker is that it's hidden. It's not, yes, the original. Well, I say original. That's not a wrong word, but the reason to have a bunker is for a number of reasons: for explosions, protection from explosions, right, and from nuclear fallout, and then hiding, being able to hide underground, hidden.
Well, it was kind of like a popular thing back in the 1940s, 50s. I mean, we actually have here in studio a copy of the Salt Lake map with all the shelters, nuke shelters, fallout shelters, and those are rare to find. The fact that we were able to get one, the owner of the station, Dick was able to get one from a good friend of his. It's phenomenal. I mean, that information is very key, especially if there is an issue.
Well, I remember them in my elementary schools. I remember seeing that fallout shelter sign. There's some stairs going down to a basement, which we weren't allowed to go in. But
I didn't have that where I grew up.
But now all these new schools, and I do a lot of work in schools. Excuse me, and I've never seen any.
Well, they're not
provision
designed
for-
to do that
for
anymore.
fall. Why
It
not?
used to be back then, like they would even say, "Hey, build your own shelter in your backyard." This
Oh, yeah.
thing has instructions.
They would
This-
encourage you. Yeah,
this map
absolutely.
has instructions on how to build your own shelter in your backyard. Dig an 18-foot long hole, reinforce it with
cinder blocks.
cinder
and concrete.
blocks.
Yeah.
Put a layer of dirt over it, and how to do the door. It's really quite interesting, right? At that same time, all the government propaganda was grow a garden, get some
Propaganda.
chickens,
The propaganda to take care of yourself. Yeah, absolutely.
and now the propaganda is
Oh,
no,
nothing's
no, no,
wrong.
no, no. You don't need to do it. We'll take care of
We'll
you.
take care of it. And there will never be another financial collapse in our lifetime.
Yeah, bullcrap. So
Yep.
so shelter, bunkers. I mean, we're evolving towards this mindset, globally that we need a bunker of some kind.
And I think ultimately it would be good to have a bunker as an option. And we're coming up on break here, but I want to talk a little bit about what's the positives of having a bunker, what's a negative.
Well, I think the number one thing is bunkers. You need to realize bunkers are always short-term solutions.
Yes.
It is not a long-term sustainable living location. You can't. There's no resupply inside of a bunker.
And like you said with that map of Salt Lake, what those locations are, they're fallout shelters. They're not bomb shelters. They're not bunkers. They have enough concrete or enough mass around them to absorb fallout radiation to where you're going to be safe. So that, in my opinion,
That you'll survive.
You can survive, exactly. Now, safe definitely is the wrong word, but survive the radiation of fallout.
There's always a chance of contamination. But the key is survive the initial fallout and rebuild. And that's what those are for.
Right, and the fallout, if there is a large-scale attack of whatever you want to call it, fallout, you need to remain in your bunker for 2 weeks, for 14 days, essentially, while that radiation degrades and is no longer as harmful. Where you can
Exactly.
be out in it, and it's not gonna kill you.
Now,
Get cancer.
the challenge is now you're going to have to clean the soil to be able to grow stuff in it or dig deeper, which, hey, great, dig deep. That's a good slogan to live
Dig
by.
deep.
Always dig deep. Fight a little harder, be a little tougher, dig deep. But
like it.
We're going to have to modify how we do things. But we can go back to our normal shelters. We can go back to our normal life at that point. And so that's when we get into a whole other plethora of types of living. But I think the key is understanding the limitations of a bunker and what it can and can't do.
Exactly. Figure that you have to be in there pretty much confined, not leaving it all for at least 2 weeks, and what provisions do you need to have down there, what you've got to have filtered air, you've got to have water, you've got to be able to
Eating, sleeping,
your
drinking,
sewage, your
entertainment.
waste and such. Yeah, all
How
that
many
for
people
2
are going to
weeks.
be in there?
What's the size of your bunker? If it's a small storm shelter that's 4 foot by 8 foot, being in there for 2 weeks, that's worse than solitary.
I would lock yourself in there for 48 hours and see if you survive.
Just for a test
Put
run.
it, put
just
your
to see how it.
take your dog in there, take your toddler, see what life's like in there. Because a lot of us have this grandiose idea that I can survive, I'm tough, but we don't try it out. We don't test ourselves against those things, and when we don't test ourselves, we don't really know.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. And so, what's that movie that came out not too long ago about?
With John Candy.
John Goodman.
John Goodman.
I was going to say John Candy
Candy
too,
died.
but John
Goodman.
Cloverfield
Cloverfield
Street,
Lane.
Cloverfield Lane, yeah. All right,
Creepy.
Yeah, yeah.
Creepy movie.
We'll talk a little bit more about bunkers when we get back, and then get into our other recommendations for shelters. Thanks for listening to us here on K-Talk at Prepper Talk Radio. Radio for the ready-minded. We'll catch you after the break.
Don't need to communicate with people that bad. Let's just keep going. It's too much fun.
Welcome back to the show. You listen to Scott and Shane here on Radio for the Ready-Minded, Prepper Talk Radio. Just reminding you that we are going to be switching to a new time on November 3rd to 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And then, yes.
You just dropped the bomb.
Dang it. Well, I guess I need a bunker. That was lame.
I don't know. We tried. Our jokes bomb.
Another one.
I'm a dad. I got dad jokes for days.
You talk to my kids. I'm Mr. Dad. Mr. Dad joke.
Mr. Dad jokes.
Anyway, so thanks for listening. Welcome back to the show. We're switching to 2 o'clock starting November 3rd, and then we'll go for 2 hours first of the year.
Absolutely.
So hopefully we'll be ready.
So we are looking for new sponsors to extend for those hours. We'll have 3 new segments to have sponsors for. I want to thank our longtime sponsor, Survival Medical. You're going to find them now in, just about everywhere. They're on Bass Pro Shops. They're Cabela's online. They're at our good friends locally here at the Sportsman's Warehouse.
Oh, that's right, Sportsman's Warehouse.
They're online with them here this month, and then they're going to be in stores in January. So
and
pretty
you can always go to
awesome.
survival-medical.com to get your kits, and probably a good New Year's resolution to increase your knowledge in first aid and supply yourself with that. Not just your food storage.
Get your first aid. Get a tourniquet, a good tourniquet.
Mm-hmm.
Rat's tourniquet's our favorite from our buddies over at Rat's
and
Tourniquets, which is Ready Man, and Jeff Kirkham, the genius behind so many products. But
oh yes,
there's so many things you could be doing. We're going to actually talk over the next few weeks, actually next 2 months. We're going to be giving a lot of different ideas for Christmas gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Things you can help get your family a little bit better prepared. Stocking stuffers, big gifts, you name it. We're going to be talking about it. We'll also be giving more tips. And speaking of tips, this week's tip from the infallible Shane,
from the prepared guy.
The prepared guy.
Well, I've got a number of different tips here. I'm thinking, okay, let's do this one. First of all, we always advocate to have a full tank of gas, right?
Yes.
For me, half tank is empty. So wherever I go, if I drop in a half tank, okay, fill that thing back up. So what's the difference between a half tank of gas and a half discharged cell phone? There's really not much difference. A cell phone nowadays, I'm calling a cell phone your smart device, whatever you want to call it.
Your telecommunications device.
Exactly.
Digital communication device, whatever you want to call it.
Social media device. Can be as important to have a full cell phone as it is to have a full tank of gas.
It's interesting because your battery life on your phones is really short nowadays because you're using so much processing
data
on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because I was looking at a report last night actually, showing the Nokia phone from 2003. That phone would lose about 3% charge per day on standby mode.
Well, the big brick thing?
No, the first small phone.
Oh, the first
small Nokia.
Right, because it's just it's not roaming. It's just using very little power to.
Yeah. It's not searching for network ever. The only time it's ever looking for the network is when you actually hit send. Mm-hmm. Until then, it's just sitting in standby mode, like, hey, whenever you want to use me. Now our phones are always searching, always on. So the only way to
always spying.
Combat that is to turn it on. Turn off cellular data, turn off Wi-Fi, turn everything off.
Turn the thing off.
Throw it on airplane mode when you're not using it, but then you're not getting calls.
Mm-hmm.
You'll just have to check your voicemail when you come back. But in an emergency situation, you need to make sure you've got all the battery you can.
Yeah, if you're away from where you can charge your phone, keep it charged in your vehicle or your home, you got to have a good charger on your phone as long as possible. I carry a solar panel just for that reason, but also, I try and keep that thing almost full all the time, and for a couple of reasons: for emergencies, but also depending on the type of battery, even the nickel metal hydride can develop a memory. And if you don't
say that again a little slower, though. What hydride?
Nickel metal hydride, the different types of batteries.
Metal hydride.
There's different batteries out there. There's the lithium ions. There's lithium ferro, whatever, all different kinds of. And most of our batteries now are the lithium batteries, which can still retain a memory. They're coming out with better ones still.
Mm-hmm.
So my tip for today: keep your phone charged, just like you would keep your tank full. Good enough?
A half charge and a half tank are where you need to fill up again.
That's right.
That's
for me, if I get below 90%, I'm charging that phone.
That's why I have a battery bank charger on my phone all times.
Yep, and I've got one of the hybrid lights in my car, which I can charge if I have to get on the go somewhere.
My favorite is the puck. That
yes,
puck lantern's amazing.
Yeah. It has a lithium battery in there. You can charge your phone with it.
So let's talk back to the bunkers.
Yes.
Okay. In a bunker scenario, in a bunker down, you're not coming out for 14 days. What are the things that you need to take consideration of? Airflow, we mentioned briefly. You need to have oxygen recirculation coming back in. You need clean air.
I think that's the second biggest.
Mm-hmm.
The reason to be in a bunker is to protect yourself from fallout, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have regular air coming in, unfiltered air, what reason is there to even be in the bunker? Right? If you don't have an NBC, a nuclear, biological, chemical filter system on your bunker, which are very expensive, what reason even is there to be in a bunker? Because you're getting that contamination anyway.
Well, there are large enough bunkers that you can actually put a greenhouse in there if you have a power supply.
That'd be a big bunker.
And actually, you don't need to have that big of a bunker.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned from
enough
the
plants
Grow
in
Eco
there.
guys that you can actually get more oxygen off of basil and green algae than you need in a small space.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, basil?
What about? Don't they need some kind of fresh air coming in, or
They need our
CO2 coming off?
Your
that we're breathing
CO2
off,
coming
and
off
they put
of what we're
oxygen,
breathing.
So
And
it'd be
then
a recirculating system. It's a
So a lot of small plants in a small space can do it, but again, that's taking half or 2/3 of your total space.
and those plants have got to be growing. It's not like you can move into your bunker and start growing plants. They've already got to be up.
Unless they're growing in a similar environment in your
You bring 'em
garage or
inside,
something
whatever.
else, and you hurry and run them down to the bunker when something happens. But now you're just adding an element of difficulty. But if you have a bunker and you're using it as a grow location currently, now you're not just having a wasted.
So
buried space.
maybe I'm mistaken there a little bit. And callers, if you have any comments, please comment. 801-254-1640. Is obviously you're going to get contamination from unfiltered air coming into your bunker, but is it enough just to have that mass protecting you from the radiation and still breathe in some unfiltered air? I don't know the exact answer to that.
I don't think you want the outside air unless you've got the nuke biological and chemical
The
NBC filtration, and that starts at what, $1,800 for a cheap little one
at least. And there are ways to do it yourself filters, but I've done a little research on that, and I don't trust those as much as I would a commercially made filter. So if you're going to build your own bunker of some sort, and I'm working on plans in my own house to build additional mass in one particular room, but I've got to be able to buy that type of filtration system, which can be costly. So just keep that in mind when we're talking about bunkers. So a bunker can be great to protect you, obviously, from the radiation. But what are you going to do with your sewage? What are you going to do about fresh air? What are you going to? But what other options are there?
Like, what do you do?
Exactly. But if you're in a direct zone where you've got direct exposure to nuclear radiation, what are your other options? Stay in your house, seal up your windows and doors, and stay in the basement.
I hope you have a ton of duct tape
and sandbags
and hope and faith.
So in that case, you want to be able to seal your house off completely, your windows and doors, and have none of that air come in, and be able to rely on the air inside your home alone. Although most homes are still permeable, they're not airtight.
Yep. Your windows have little gaps in them intentionally. Your fireplace.
An airtight house is not a healthy house.
Yeah. So
we have our homes are not airtight. And so they're very difficult to make airtight in an emergency. You can use plastic and tape and such,
right.
And I would have that on hand
to make one or two rooms airtight.
Go.
That's the key is a couple of rooms. And we've got a caller, so maybe they've got some more insight on that for us.
Let me turn this on here. You're live here on Prepper Talk Radio. Did you have a question or comment for us?
Yeah, I was going to say I have a friend who has been involved in doing electrical wiring for secure facilities and shelters. And when I said one time, hey, you worked on any bunkers lately? He says, I don't refer to them as bunkers because that kind of promotes a siege mentality when you discuss it with people. I always call them shelters. And I thought that might be worth bringing up.
Yes, agreed.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your call. Appreciate it. So, absolutely. It's a bunkering down is kind of like a negative mentality, maybe, right?
Well, I think it depends on how you view that word, right, and how you've used that word in the past. It's a very militarized term from what Hollywood's done, right? It used to be everyone needs to have a fallout shelter or a fallout bunker in their backyard. It was very commonplace to talk about it that way. And now it's more, you got to have a bunker, and in your bunker you got to have your ammo. You got to have, you got to worry about the zombies. It's just like it's very energized, and I think this caller was right. It's polarized. It can be a very negative term when you think of it the way that it's been portrayed in the last probably 15 to 20 years.
It's just called an underground shelter.
Yeah, so I think shelter, that's a more of a fair word. I think saying bunker is easy because people realize it's underground.
Envision exactly what it is.
Yeah,
when you say bunker.
But an underground shelter.
You know what my favorite underground shelter is? a natural cave.
Mhm.
And I've been a caver. I've been in a lot of caves for fun, and there are a lot of caves along the Wasatch Front, right up on our foothills here. So if you know where those are, probably a lot of other people do too, and they may have the same idea. But it may not be a bad idea to put that in as part of your possibilities list, right? We could bug out to this cave up here and take some supplies for.
That kind of leads into the other shelters. Like, okay, if you have advanced warning and you can get out of the blast radius of where something's going to happen, where are you going? Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's a different scenario altogether. Maybe there's what's most likely going to happen here in Utah is a major earthquake. What's most likely to happen across the United States is a pandemic, right? A virus could affect the entire nation within a few days.
But you bring up a great point there is it can be possible to get out of the way of fallout. Mm-hmm. And that may be a better option for you to say, okay, identify what those targets may be here in Utah, and I've got a pretty good idea what the direction the wind usually goes, and I'm going to be right in the path of some fallout. Let's get out of that area. Let's make a plan to bug out and have a place prepared that you're away from that fallout.
Well, in the smaller communities, smaller communities
exactly.
Out of the way are typically safer, less likely to have those pandemic issues because how many people are coming in and out of that community.
The smaller population.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then again, if it's too small and it does get hit, there goes everybody.
Fewer resources.
Right. Well, there goes everybody. And how do you rebuild?
If everybody's gone, then you're gone too. So,
well, if you're the only survivor, then you're not
I will
gone.
be. I guarantee you, I will be one of those survivors.
I know. Yeah.
There's no question in my mind.
I'm going to.
No debate there.
That's just how I am. Geared. My entire life has led me to this point of being able to say, I want to survive no matter what. Mm-hmm. Even if I've got less fingers, even if there's been radiation burns on my body. I mean, I just want to be able to live and find a quality of life and rebuild, because that's the human experience in everything we do is to overcome, is to become better. And if this were to go south, which if you follow the biblical prophecies and things of that nature, which we do, if you want to focus on just the daily occurrences of what's going on in the news, okay, that's enough of an indicator, too, to be ready. So regardless of why you're prepping and why you're doing things, the whole idea is so that you can rebuild and start new and start fresh.
And I think I was probably a little selfish there in that statement as well, because, yes, I intend to survive, and I mean that's my goal, is to get through these difficult times, to honestly be here when Christ comes back to the earth.
There you go.
But if I don't, I'm preparing for my family and my kids and any of those who may be able to use my resources. So I don't want to say that I'm that selfish.
You're not a wacko. You're not crazy.
And I'm not. It's not like I'm going to do whatever. Yes, I'm going to do whatever I have to survive. But it's more for really. I'm making preparations for my kids. If it doesn't happen in my lifetime, I'm preparing for my family to survive.
Right, you're teaching your kids the right principles to help them get through as well. And those
providing those resources and
they're transferable skills too. I mean, those same principles apply into any type of job you want to go get, any type of career they want to follow, or any life ambition they want to do, because they come back to the basic core principles and values and skills that our grandparents and great grandparents live by every day. And we use them today, but we use them in different ways. It's transferable. And just like, whatever they came across, we can go through those things too. Like, for example, if we have an earthquake here, most likely thing to happen in Utah, my neighbor's house, the fault line goes right through it in Bountiful. So guess who's got extra ropes and carabiners and rigging systems to try to get over there and help him out? This guy. And guess where I got those? My brother, who's got everything. I've been helping him take down trees for the last 4 days, and man, that kid is in shape. He's jumping up these trees that are like, he's 60, 80 feet in the air, cutting trees and making it look easy, and I'm down there hauling off all the limbs, and it sucked. But it gave me a great appreciation for the use of tools in a rescue scenario. He uses the same tools for rescue as he does for tree trimming, helping somebody out of a bad position, or, keeping a car from going off the edge. It's all the same principles. And when it comes to sheltering, it's all the same principles. Whether it's a bunker whether it's a tent, you've got to put it in a place where it makes the most sense. You've got to put it in a place where you can get in and out. You can do what you need to do. You can take care of your needs, but you can also have enough supplies, have enough surplus to be able to take care of those who come along the way that are in need, that you can help. You can't just turn everyone away and think that all is right with the world and that you're going to be able to go meet your maker if you didn't treat people the right way in this life. And I think that's where a lot of the prepper mindset and mentality is I'm not helping anybody under any circumstance.
Yeah, very selfish mindset.
And that's the Hollywood version of it.
Mm-hmm.
The reality
is they're not.
Everyone I've talked to, they want to be able to help. And they look at their preparedness as eliminating one victim from the scenario, themselves. Now they're someone who can help. They're a surplus tool for the community. And that's how I've always envisioned myself, is I want to be a surplus tool for the community. I've got a larger shelter than what I need for my family, but it also gives me a place to put stuff and put people, most importantly, if they need a place to stay. Like my neighbors, if the fault line does what the fault line should, they're going to need a place to live, and hey, my house is available.
You want to wrap us up there?
You're going. Go for it.
All right, cool. We will continue on the topic. I think we're going to jump over to different types of shelters that we have recommendations for, some that are not so obvious ideas and thoughts about that. And thanks for listening to Scott and Shane here on Prepper Talk Radio. We will catch you guys after the break. All right, and welcome back to the show. You're listening to Scott and Shane here on Prepper Talk Radio. We're talking about shelters and bunkers and all kinds of alternative ways to
alternative domiciles.
There we go.
Right? So after an event, you need to find a place to stay. For example, Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Katrina. There were so many people that were displaced for a long time.
Fires in California.
You couldn't go back into your home and live in it. It wasn't habitable, right? CERT and other organizations would come through and they'd say, this is habitable, this is not, this is habitable. They would inspect them. One of the things they needed to check for was gas. Another thing they needed to check for was mold and contaminants in the home. So when we have a disaster, don't think, hey, I can just walk back into my house. If there's any structure left, I can use that. Not necessarily. You can try, but not necessarily. Is it a safe place for your kids? Do you have small kids? Can they walk around in that area? No way, dude.
Probably not.
No way.
So
what is your backup?
What is your first recommendation for if you're unable to live in your home? What is your first recommendation for the average person to get, I guess, or to go to as a temporary shelter?
You know, one of my favorites is a shed.
Okay.
A shed is more likely to survive an earthquake than your house.
Okay.
Because of the fact that it's light and it's on a floating foundation. It's just a slab or a wood deck.
Sitting on the surface.
So it's not going to get tweaked it'll move.
And it's typically built like a standard home, but it's much smaller, and so it tends to be stronger structure by itself.
It's more resilient. I love those. Right. A great one is a nice big tent. You can get like there's the oh man.
You can just go down to Wally World and get just a big old.
Yeah, those aren't going to withstand a winter though.
No.
A Utah winter is going to destroy those. Even 6 to 7 months in living in one of those tents is going to destroy it. The major reasoning, it's using cotton or polyester threading. Cotton and polyester is not going to withstand the sun's rays. We're at a high altitude, high elevation. It's going to degrade. UV rays are going to kill those threads. UV rays are going to kill your ripstop nylon tents. They're going to degrade. The other problem is if they get moldy, it's going to leach through because they're porous. So like a polyvinyl, a very thick, like 22-ounce polyvinyl
like a
shelter.
cabin-type tent.
Cabin-type tents. I don't like the tents that are... what do you want to call it? Canvas for the same mold and mildew issue. Let's take this call. Let's see what they've got to say about shelters.
Yeah. You're live here on Prepper Talk Radio. You have a comment for us?
Yes.
You're live.
Yes.
Go for it.
I'd like to know when the Mormons think the world's going to come to an end.
When the Mormons think the world's going to come to an end.
Well,
that's right, because the Mormons think that because the Mormons aren't very smart, you know.
Well, let's go ahead and address that real quick here. Thanks for your call. What does the end of the world mean? I mean, let's define that first. What does the end of the world mean?
Well, different answer for different types of people. The Mormons believe it's going to be when Christ returns, right? That's similar with the entire Judeo-Christian communities looking forward to Christ returning, right? That's the prophecy. The world's not ending. It's the world as we know it is changing.
But I think the definition of the end of the world really applies to the destruction of the wicked. I mean, that's what it comes down to. That's what I think. When
The
you
big
talk
question
to the
is,
Mormons,
are we in the right place so that we're wicked or not?
There we go.
Hopefully not, right? We don't want to be wicked.
So when is that going to happen? The destruction of the wicked, the end of the world?
No man knoweth when it
Nobody
comes.
knows when Christ can come. And that's really the event that I'm preparing for. It's not necessarily for Christ's return. I'm preparing for the calamities before that, right?
Right.
Which those are really already starting to be upon us. That's why we're preppers. That's why we watch the world events. We see those things happening right now. And I had missed another caller there, but
then there's also the other groups that are focused more on they're afraid of a true zombie apocalypse happening. They're afraid of a true pandemic or a financial crisis.
We're in the zombie apocalypse right now.
When we talk about these things, some people will say, well, it's already happened and we're in the recovery of something, right? Or it's about to happen. And so it's not just the Mormons, that have not a deadline, but a timeline, or scenario-driven belief system.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say one of those groups is dumb or smart just because of their affiliation with their religion or anything else like that, like the caller did. I think more importantly is, are we self-reliant that in most cases, and I think this is what the Mormon Church really focuses on, is in case of life disruptions, you can continue to move forward without hesitation. For example, if you lose your job, I've got enough money in my savings to last until I find another job, or
food
or
storage,
longer.
or whatever it might be.
Am I living below my means, or am I
Exactly.
living above my means, so that if something does disrupt, I'm screwed?
Your debts are paid off enough to where you can sustain yourself much more easily than if you were fully mortgaged or you lots of car payments or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely.
But going back to shelters, though, I mean, you've got to have some type of backup, because if there's a major earthquake, whatever shelters are left, hotels and whatnot, they're going to fill up pretty quick. Everything on the outskirts of town and farther out that hasn't been affected is going to fill up pretty quick. And okay, do you have enough money to live in a hotel for the next 2 months?
No.
Do you have family in the next town over that you can go live with? What are those solutions? One of the best is always to be able to relocate with family and share a new household.
So a tent is probably the first go-to resource, whatever that tent may be, a large cabin tent or a small backpacking tent, depending on the size of your family, right?
Yeah, there's the Vital Domes. There's Alaska Oven, which is an amazing tent. They use that now the North Pole expeditions. It's got an insulation layer, and it's a smaller tent, but it's about 6 feet at the peak in the middle.
And it's made for all 4 seasons.
And it's made for all 4 seasons. It's got a stove. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal.
Okay, so what's the next option?
You can also do like a camper.
There we go.
In Utah, a lot of people have campers.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
Trailers,
a great
camping
solution.
trailer.
Camp trailers.
Yeah.
You can even retrofit or modify a little enclosed utility trailer. I've seen the guys over at Plan B. They've taken these old military vehicles and turned them into these elite, camp vehicles that instead of saying, "Oh, we're just going to park on the side in this RV pad," we're going to go backcountry to the most remote place because we can go anywhere we want to and
take all your supplies with you.
And they've got it there.
All right, got a call here. Let's go ahead and take this. You're live here on Prepper Talk Radio. You had a comment or question for us?
Well, I know when the end of the world is coming.
Okay.
Oh, you do?
Please tell us.
Well, when my first ex is nice to me, and that's never going to happen. So, part A.
Oh,
okay.
Well, you've got to make sure you call us when that happens, so we know.
We need to know first.
She'll never be nice, so that's fine.
So the world is never going to end. That's a good.
No, Jesus just ain't coming. He's put it on hold.
That's one belief.
It's all subject to that. Okay.
All right, see you.
Thanks for letting us know.
Thank you. I love his calls.
Bring some levity to our situation.
Yeah,
here.
he's always got some fun perspectives.
So yeah, absolutely. I think a camping trailer is probably the next. Well, probably definitely better than having a tent, but
much better than a tent.
Oh yeah,
but it's more costly to get into, right?
And you have to be able to get around with that. If the roads are blocked and you can't take it anywhere.
Well, that's if you're relocating. But
relocating.
if you're not having to relocate and you can just keep it in your driveway.
And if it hasn't been damaged,
great.
Yeah, fantastic.
If you do need to relocate, hopefully you've got something to tow it and you've got enough fuel to get to where you need to go. Another one that I really like is a cabin. Mm-hmm. It's a relocation, option.
So you're talking log cabin or just a home off-grid?
I'd prefer a log cabin.
I would prefer a log cabin myself, too.
Because then you've got this really cool place you go visit every few weeks as a family, and you've got a lot of experiences there and family.
It's your vacation home, but it's also your bug-out location.
Yeah. And it's a strategic relocation spot. Mm-hmm. But that could also be just another home somewhere else. But is that really feasible for most people to have a second home?
It really isn't.
Not if you're going to try to stay out of debt.
So how do we do that on a lower budget? What is I know where I'm going with this thing, right? But I'm trying.
Are you talking timeshares? Are you going to try to sell me a timeshare?
Heck no! You kidding me?
I'm just curious. You said it's affordable.
Affordable as in, well, like you say, a shed, right?
Okay.
And so there are definitely lots of manufacturers out there who make sheds, but who've also turned those sheds into tiny homes. Mm-hmm. Either tiny homes or just maybe not a traditional tiny home where it's on a trailer, but a more livable shed where it has windows, it's got rooms in there. It's built more to code of a residential code than just a shed, because there is a difference.
Well, and there's like sheep camp trailers too, which are even more impressive because of the insulation and the portability.
More off-road capable.
What's that company here in Utah? Timberline Range Camps.
Yep.
Those guys, I mean, they go to PrepperCon, they go to a bunch of different events. Check them out because they've got one of the coolest products out there for your backup living.
It's built much stronger than a traditional trailer, and it's built to last longer. With the way the roof it doesn't have the typical EPDM
it's
rubber roof. It has all aluminum roof, and it's got a wood burning stove inside too. Which if you run out of propane, you gotta be able to heat that thing with her. So yeah, I think that's a great option as well. That's on my long list, is to have a Timberline trailer for ourselves. Okay, what else? What other options? We've got dome tents. I love the Vital Domes dome. I think that's a fantastic. It's definitely on the heavy side, so you have to be able to carry that. You can't backpack it.
Well, and any of those types of shelters are not backpackable shelters anyway. I mean, the backpackable ones are short-term, temporary. I'm going from point A to point B, and that's what I'm going to use during that transition. It's also, those shelters are also like your small dome tents. They're also perfect for putting it up in your home and living in that inside your home, because it adds an extra layer of radiant warmth. It's also easier to keep the kids corralled. I mean, there's a lot of benefits.
It's kind of like you're camping in the house. It takes a little stress away from the kids and such. Okay, so another one of my favorites is the shipping container.
Yes. Dude, and they have those on Amazon now.
I saw that, yes.
Amazon
for $36,000, you can order a shipping container plus like $3,700 in delivery, something like that.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't qualify for Prime because it's so heavy. But you can get a living bunker. It's got bunk beds. It's got all your water hookups, everything in there.
And you could call it an above-ground bunker.
You could.
I wouldn't bury it.
I would definitely don't bury it because it's
not
a
going to handle it.
Container.
It's not going to handle it. So we've got a few more minutes here. Let's take this final caller here. Hello, you're here live on Prepper Talk Radio. Do you have a question or comment for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch base. Y'all, I've been listening to you for a short while. I'm actually in Middle Tennessee.
Fantastic.
Hey, thanks for calling in.
Yeah, I've missed the first part of your show, but I'll catch it on the podcast later.
Perfect.
Great topics. I really wish y'all were on for about 3 hours every day.
We're pushing our way to 2 hours at the new year, so we'll give you a little more content then. But man, 3 hours, that'd be tough for us to do.
There.
I just wanted to call in and say I enjoy you guys and kind of where I was at. I found you just looking through, got tired listening to politics, and let you know where I was at. Awesome topics. Loved it. It's a good break from the politics on the radio to listen to some you guys talk about it. And I'm a scout leader out here with one of our troops, so I really relate. And
awesome.
I actually do a YouTube channel with some preparedness stuff, and I do that. I just love all the topics, great ideas.
Go ahead and throw that out there. What's your channel? Throw it out there.
Oh, it's Got to Go Prepared. So it's GOT, the number 2, GO Prepared.
I'm going to check that out. I'd love finding new channels. Thank you very much for the call, and thanks for listening. We sure appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
You bet. Take care.
that just reminds me how awesome our listeners are. I mean, we've got listeners local, but we're starting to see listeners. I mean, Tennessee. Last week we had calls in from Georgia.
Yep.
Atlanta. It's fantastic to see how many people are taking a ready-minded approach to life, who are involved in our show. Makes what we're doing, because we don't get paid to do this. We do this voluntarily. Makes our show more worthwhile when we hear from you guys, when we hear that it's impacting you in a positive way. Today's topic, shelters. I mean, it can go in a million different ways. You could talk about building your own lean-to shelters in the wild, and going from a temporary to a permanent structure. I mean, watching the TV show Alone this last season, these guys built a standing log cabin. It was a small one, but it's a more permanent structure. So get creative. Look at all the books. Find the books at the library. Get engrossed in this. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on PrepperTalkRadio.com.
Facebook,
Prepper Talk Radio. It's easy to find us. We're there.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you guys next week.